I'm back better than ever. I have my cup with nothing in it. Okay, maybe it had something in it. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Finally, the day has come and the new Love is Blind season has released. It is season 5, Where Did the Time Go? So I'm excited. I've been planning for this season for a while. I even tried out a live stream where I reacted to the cast reveal for season 5. So I've been kind of soft launching live streams lately because I find them really fun and like a new way to approach content that excites me. I've been kind of scared to like commit to like an official live stream date. I feel like the ones I've done so far are kind of low-key because I'm still figuring out all the tech and everything, but I think I have it down and I want to do a fun big live stream with all of y'all Love is Blind fans if you're available the day that the finale and reunion drop, which is October 13th, Friday the 13th, spooky vibes that evening, probably around 7-ish p.m. Central Time. I'm going to be making a video for every batch of episodes that comes out. So if you follow along with my videos, we can have like a finale party that evening and all talk about the season together. I feel like anytime there's a finale for a show, I always want to like talk to other people about it like immediately. And it's really hard to find those avenues because when the age of streaming, like all my friends watch things at different times than I do, and it's not always, a lot of the time it just doesn't line up. The place I do that the most is Reddit. So a lot of the time when one of my favorite shows is airing, I'll be on the Reddit thread. But even with something like Love is Blind that is on streaming, people watch it all throughout the day. It's harder to have like a live discussion post. So I thought it'd be fun to do a live stream that evening. We can all have time throughout the day to catch up on the final episodes and then just talk about them together. So if you're interested, just keep an eye out for that. I think it'll be a really fun celebration and fun way to end the season. So I want to talk about first like my first impressions about season 5 because they're doing a lot of different things that I'm not so used to on Love is Blind, and I'm kind of like thrown for a loop. Episodes of Love is Blind release on Fridays, and the first batch of episodes contains the first 4 episodes, but the odd thing about it is that they are all in the pods. Usually in every Love is Blind season, they do like 2 episodes-ish of pods, maybe bleed into 3 a little bit, but like by the end of the 4th episodes, we done packed up the honeymoons and are going back to the real world. This is pretty unprecedented for Love is Blind to spend this much time in the pods. So if you're a fan of the pods, if that's your favorite part, like this is your season. I'm not that big a fan of the pods part. I was trying to think like what is my favorite like segment of a season of Love is Blind, and I think it's like the honeymoons for me because I feel like the honeymoons is like either where a couple just like meshes perfectly, they get along, they're obsessed with each other, they're, you know, sleeping together, all of that, or it's where the red flags start popping up all over the place and they already start arguing. The honeymoons is really where you test like how good the bond is and the relationship is. And then once you get to the real world, I feel like the families and meeting the friends, the wedding dress, it's all very like repetitive to me, so it's not my favorite. So I think the honeymoon is perfect because it still has kind of like the production value. It has like nice scenery, it has fun activities or whatever, but it also has like, it's the first time they are like cohabitating and it either goes like really well or really wrong. And another weird thing about them staying in the pod so much this season is that like making this first video about the season, I'm not sure where the season's gonna go. We haven't seen any of the couples like in person spending time together, and that feels really weird. So I feel like a lot of this video is gonna be like kind of speculative and thinking about like what might go wrong with each couple, but it's kind of like still a little bit of a shot in the dark, even though red flags have popped up in the pods. Like I have no idea how the season's gonna play out. In the pods, like everyone's putting like their best face forward. I feel like people never admit their actual red flags. There's rare exceptions, but I feel like most people kind of downplay their toxic traits, their red flags, in order to, you know, seem appealing, which makes sense. Also, people are kind of blind, no pun intended, to their own flaws and don't recognize them yet. The pods feel a lot like political campaigns. We're promising all these things, and then once we get elected, we're not sure that we're gonna fulfill all those promises. And this format shakeup, I'm just like, what does it mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? And I'm trying to think of like theories. What could it mean that they have 4 episodes of pods this season? Having this much pods kind of feels like it's a lot of setup. And I'm trying to think about, like, as a narrative arc, what are these episodes setting up for us? So far this season feels kind of like the messiest romantically. Like, it doesn't have the kind of drama that season 4 had, where it was kind of more like catty mean girl behavior, like laughing at you because you're cringe kind of thing. But then there's some things that go on when the women get territorial, or like messier things happen, like the twist and the several twists that happen towards the end of these episodes. It just feels like really messy, but it's like messy with the relationships. Like, it's the relationships that are messy, and I feel like this extended pod session is setting up like all this web of like relationships. And I think it also means that like the pod squad is going to be more involved than ever this season, more active than ever. I'm wondering if in season 4, like, the producers learned that the pod squad is like an effective tool they can use to control narratives, or just to add narratives if a season is boring. I feel like season 4, with the success of like Zach and Bliss, with the drama that was provided by like the Monica and Josh storyline, I think producers started to value the elements of surprise that like other pod squad members could bring. So I feel like they were just showing us more pod people this season to set us up for seeing them a lot again throughout the rest of the season. And by pod squad, I mean people that don't end up engaged at the end of the pods. I'm personally not a big fan of involving pod squad people so much. I think season 4, it just like coincidentally worked out well, but like, I don't love incorporating pod people so much because a lot of the time the stakes are a lot lower. We care about the couples because it is so high stakes. Having to make a decision to get married for the rest of their lives, in theory, at the end of this. And once like the engagement's out of the picture, there's just not as many stakes. Like, the stakes are like, we could try a relationship, kind of like Jackie and Josh did. We'll try a relationship, and now it's over, and there was no engagement, no marriage there. I do think audiences care the most about the engaged couples, and the pod squad sometimes feels like clout chasey, sometimes feels like forced in by producers. I'm not a big fan. I'm just curious how they're gonna play out the rest of the season in less episodes. Like, I'm wondering if there was so much pods as well because maybe a lot of the couples failed. I think this season was advertised in all of the press as like the most shocking season yet, or the messiest season, and I saw people speculating like maybe that means no one gets engaged, or sorry, that no one gets married. I'm just wondering if like the couples fall apart earlier, and that's why there's less real world episodes. There's also technically less couples engaged at the end of episode 4 than we've ever had. There's only technically 3 couples engaged, but kind of a lot of extra people that were following. Maybe the season played out fairly normal, but they were only following 3 main couples and bringing in pod squad people here and there. There's a lot of theories. I would love to hear your theories for like why they have so many pod episodes, because it's definitely a deviation for Love is Blind, and I'm like, I kind of feel like it's not a good sign for like the quality of this season, but we'll see. That's the beauty of making these videos like in real time as they come out. Honestly, the most juicy things we got these episodes were the previews and like teasers for the next batch. I think we got our first bare ass on Love is Blind. I don't think I can show you on YouTube fully. I have to censor it, but there was kind of a lot of sex scenes in the preview. It was like very steamy. I feel like we got some exhibitionists on this cast. Like, they are ready to show off. I feel like we've never seen this like HD sex on Love is Blind before. I think I'm gonna cover each couple first, and I'll cover their individual journeys in the pods within their couple section. And some people didn't end up fully together, but like I'll just lump them in. And I want to give my usual disclaimer that these are real people, and I've already seen a lot of nastiness on the subreddit. Just keep in mind, these are real people. It's not that serious. It is just a reality show, and there's no need to like send people hate. So let's get into these couples. I want to start with Stacy and Izzy. The order is a little bit random, so it is what it is. Stacy and Izzy, they're kind of like the couple with the most chemistry. They were the second proposal to happen. We've only seen them and one other couple reveal each other. Like, we didn't even see everybody do the reveals, like seeing each other for the first time. Out of the two couples we did see reveals, Stacy and Izzy had the warmest chemistry. Like, they had instant physical chemistry. They seem very comfortable with each other. They kind of feel a little bit like a second coming of Barnett and Amber to me. A little bit of the same dynamic where they like prioritize fun and good times. I mean, especially Stacy, her journey in the pods was a lot about like, she kind of avoids emotional vulnerability. And she kind of did the whole time. She never really like came around from that. She stayed fairly closed off. And honestly, throughout the episodes, I really thought Stacy was gonna be left as pod squad, but Stacy was kind of like this dark horse in the race. She was very coy in the pods about her connection with Izzy. She kind of slow and steadied their relationship. She just always kept the mood light, and in the end Izzy just liked that and preferred that over the other women who were just getting like really deep really fast. And Izzy is like popular in the pods. That's another kind of like reason he reminds me of Barnett. Like, I do think he's like the first bald contestant, or at least featured bald contestant on Love is Blind. And he's a very handsome guy. Like, I do feel like, you know, he has prospects as an influencer. I think that's maybe part of his thing, just speculating here. And yeah, so he has to do 2 separate breakups before proposing to Stacy. At first, he breaks up with Lydia. Later, a more painful breakup was when Izzy broke it off with Johnie, much further into the experiment. It's wild because Izzy and Johnie, one of their pod scenes was used as the first teaser for the season. So I was like positive Izzy and Johnie were just gonna get engaged. And now I'm wondering if like they use that teaser because they're gonna reconnect later in the season maybe. But he seems pretty solid with Stacy, so I don't know about that one. It's kind of wild that they tricked us in the teaser, because that was like the one couple that I was like, oh sure, they're gonna be together. That's why I also wrote off Stacy. I was like, oh, she's gonna just stay in the pods, whatever. And Izzy does try to confront Stacy about never being like emotionally vulnerable, and Stacy's just like, I think I'm just more fun. He really did have these deep moments with Johnie, like when he talked about growing up Jehovah's Witness, which was like the most depressing thing I've ever heard. Like, I don't care about religion, like you do you, as long as you don't push it on me or use it to oppress like minority groups or whatever. But like, what does that religion have against holidays and having fun? Like, and that's so depressing to like deprive a kid of holidays, or like have to actively avoid holidays because they're part of society and they're part of like communal celebration. I don't know, I'm just like, why would you do this to a child? That's so sad. And he got like yelled at for going to an Easter egg hunt. Like, that's so goofy. I'm so sorry. I mean, no shade to religions, but like, that's ridiculous to me. He also, in that incident, found out his dad, or who he thought was his dad, was not his real dad. So he's had this like journey of like finding his real dad. Also, Izzy has been engaged before, and I feel like they didn't like go into that. Everybody deserves a second chance and everything, but like, what are we not hearing about here? Because the only information we got is that he'd been engaged before, but we don't know what happened, how long was the engagement, what went wrong, what broke it off, who broke it off. Like, we don't know anything about it. And I would imagine he, like, talked about it to somebody, but, like, maybe the edit just didn't put it in. But I'm curious about that because Johnie had also been married, but we learned more about it. So let's move on to Johnie and Chris, who are not technically an engaged couple, but they are a pair that, you know, was related to each other in the pods and almost got engaged. So I'm just grouping them together for convenience. Johnie's very intertwined with Izzy, so we've already touched on her, but like, I had high expectations for her because she was in the teaser. She was very featured in that, and I was like, okay, she's gonna be, you know, the main character of the season. Much to my surprise, by the end, she ends up engaged to nobody. Her and Chris had like a roller coaster of a ride. So backtracking a bit, Johnie has been married before. We got some information about that. Her most intense relationship was with someone suffering from drug addiction. They broke up and everything, and she got married. And then that ex passed away, and that kind of interfered with her marriage, and they ended up divorced, right? She opens up about this to Izzy, and he doesn't take it well. And so Johnie is torn between Izzy and Chris. Chris is kind of like the safe option. He's kind of like a bit of a boring guy. He's a little nerdy. The impression I got of Chris was that he's just kind of like a goofy goober type of guy, like harmless maybe. I don't know. I get scared to like say anyone's good, and I feel like the next thing we know they're a cheater or something. Chris just seems like a nerdy, nice guy. And him and Johnie have like a very chill, simple, nice relationship. But Izzy is like kind of like a big personality, really fun, really charming, and Johnie is kind of smitten by that. But eventually Izzy breaks up with Johnie, and Johnie is like devastated by this. She's also a little bit blindsided. They were at the point where they think they're falling in love, which is like almost the last step of Love is Blind mating season. She actually goes and breaks up with Chris, and like assuming her and Izzy are each other's number one and they're gonna get engaged. But then Izzy breaks up with Johnie, and Johnny's like, fuck, I let go of Chris, who liked me. It was so bad because I liked Johnie at first, and she was doing good, and I feel like she was very honest. She was kind of like this cool girl. She's a lawyer, accomplished everything, seemed self-aware. But then this thing happened where her first choice rejected her, and so she went like crawling back to her second choice and took back everything she had said. Before, she had said like, oh, I just see Chris as a friend, he's the safe choice, it's boring, all my life I've gone with the safe choice. When Izzy's breaking up with her, like the lawyer in her jumped out because she was like presenting this really strong case for why she's a better fit for Izzy than Stacy, because Johnie is aware of the Stacy relationship and is very vocal about like, oh, if Izzy picks Stacy, he's gonna regret it because Stacy is like Izzy's Chris and she's the safe choice for Izzy. It was just so funny to see the backpedaling. So like Johnie gets broken up with, so then Johnie asks to talk to Chris again and try to like get him back, and to him she says like, oh, I always go for the emotionally unavailable guy. I never choose the safe guy. So basically she tells him the exact opposite thing that she was telling Izzy. And it just comes off as very like two-faced. And I mean, I think the genuine side was what she was telling Izzy at first. When she's talking to Chris, she is fully backpedaling on everything and trying to like just get an engagement out of this. I don't know if she just really wants to be on the show. It was just so two-faced, and I was so glad that like Chris ended up catching on to that. Back in the boys' room, Chris and Izzy compare notes and figure out that Johnie told them opposite things. Like, it's just like very inconsistent, and that is a very big red flag. So Chris realizes that. Chris and Johnie go into the pods the final time to, it looks like to do a proposal, but it ends up being that Chris says he can't because he needs to be selfish technically, and like choose someone that like chooses him, you know, basically like not be someone's backup or second choice. And I find that very admirable of Chris. I think that's a little bit of what adds me liking him or appreciating him on the season. If he was clout chasing, he would have just proposed and, you know, figured out the rest later. The fact that he's willing to not be on the show anymore, not get engaged, shows that he's not in it for the clout. And he seems like a nice guy. I don't know. We'll see. I was very happy for him to stand up for himself and, like, not take Johnie's bullshit, not take her backpedaling, not take her two-facedness. He doesn't deserve that. And we've had a lot of, like, second choice proposals on Love is Blind before, but I feel like never has someone just, like, stood up for themselves and been like, no, I'm not doing this. Good for him. He also, like, opened up about something very serious, about being sexually assaulted. There's such a stigma about male sexual assault victims, so, like, that took a lot of bravery to say that on TV, to talk about it openly, talk about the stigma. All in all, Chris, I think, came off really well. I don't know if we'll see him very much later in the season. Maybe we will. But he doesn't seem like the type that's, like, trying to be crazy for TV to get screen time. So I feel like if we see him, it'll be minimal. And it's so sad. Like, Chris really liked Johnie before she broke up with him for the first time. He was all in and he was kind to her, getting her flowers. And she tried to spin it like, oh, I heard he was so upset and that made me realize like that he's my match or whatever. And it's like, girl, it's too late. It's too late. Just own your decision. You chose Izzy. That was the gamble you took, and sometimes you lose a gamble. I do feel like Johnie is going to come back big time the rest of the season. She's definitely in the previews. I think she's even like in the honeymoon setting, maybe. Again, because they used her for the teaser, I feel like she's going to be important. So next, let's take a break from the drama and talk about the most boring couple, and that's Taylor and JP. So this was the first couple to get engaged, and I swear to you, they got engaged episode 2. After they got engaged, I forgot about them completely. I mean, probably because they weren't shown much after that, but like still, I completely forgot about them. And it's ironic because Taylor's cast reveal was the most memorable to me because she actually said like an embarrassing weird fact about herself, which is like, oh, I poop with the blow dryer on or whatever. She was memorable then, but as a couple, these two are just giving nothing. And it's sad because, I don't know, they're the first engaged, and usually that's like our most wholesome like hero couple of the season. But I'm not feeling it for this season. This couple is so, and this specific, bear with me, this couple is giving like couple from your high school that went to college at A&M and then was in like a top fraternity, top sorority, and they get married like the day after they graduate. If you know, you know, especially if you're from Texas. Girl, he is giving Republican, I feel like, very much. It could be just his face, could be just how he dresses, but the tell is like his whole personality is American flag. Like Ken's personality is beach, this guy's personality is flag. Like he is obsessed with the American flag to like a degree I have never seen before. It's like I wear the flag every day. He like dries his tears with an American flag. And I'm like, isn't that sacrilegious? To be like blowing your nose on it? One guy in the pods dresses in red, white, and blue one day. He's like, I love you in that red, white, and blue. Like, his whole personality is this. The wild thing is that like when they meet, it's kind of awkward. It's like kind of warm at first, like good, and then it turns awkward. And the man is sweating bullets. No shade. I mean, people sweat. You can't control that. But like, where was his American flag handkerchief when he was sweating in the time we needed it the most? It vanished. I don't know. This couple is just like so boring. I mean, just boring enough to work, maybe, but also like I don't have much hope. I think this awkward meeting was a bad omen. I feel like usually couples that like are hero couples that never falter really, like Tiffany and Brett, Lauren and Cameron, Alexa and Brennan, these couples like from the get are pretty like warm to each other and like have instant physical chemistry, and I think Taylor and JP did not totally have that. And she even says like, oh, I would never go for him in the real world, which like, ouch, he's gonna have to see this. I feel like that'd be so awkward to like be with someone and then see them say that. Taylor is very like a manicured woman. She has very like Instagram face type styling and all that, so I feel like she cares about looks, and I feel like if anything's gonna get in the way of this couple, it might be that she's not that into him. So yeah, next, sorry, that couple is not very interesting. So next we get into this kind of mess of two separate couples, and at the center of it all truly is Lydia. Lydia is kind of like an early villain of the season, perhaps. It's hard to tell, again, where everything's going, but like, she is a little bit of mess, or a lot of mess. And I want to focus on Lydia and Milton first, because I'm like organizing this by couples. But Lydia does end up engaged to Milton. They're a tricky couple, and we still haven't seen them like meet, reveal each other, see each other for the first time, but based on the previews, it seems like they complete the journey. But Lydia like immediately writes off Milton because Milton is the youngest cast member at 24 years old. Everyone else on the cast is around 30. Lydia and Milton at first bond over loving geology and being nerdy because she's a geologist. He's like an oil and gas engineer and loves rocks and geology. He's really into her at first, but she doesn't like that he's 24, which like I think is fair enough. I mean, we've seen it end disastrously in previous seasons. Maybe in other gens it wouldn't be that different, but I feel like this specific age range, the years they were born make a big difference, because there is a big generational divide between like people born before like 1996 and after 1996 that I feel like it's really, really distinct. And it's basically like, do you remember a world with analog technology or not? And it's kind of like the divide between like millennials and Gen Z. Milton does give kind of this Gen Z vibe. He's very jokey. His humor is that like sarcastic, almost cynical Gen Z humor. I don't know, and even his mannerisms. And Lydia is, 30 years old and potentially more millennial, more offline, who knows. I'm not sure yet because we haven't seen them in the real world, but I feel like that age gap, even though the years might not be that significant, specifically these gens might have very different perspectives. It's also like a big age range where you change so much that like, even though there's 6 years between 24 and 30, I feel like adults grow the most literally between those ages. So someone at 24 might be in a really different place than someone at 30. I know I was. But anyway, so Lydia is like first into Izzy, really falling for him, and then he cuts it off. And then she's really into, who is she really into? Okay, I think it was just Izzy. So I got confused because there's so much mess here, but like Lydia was into Izzy a lot. But once Izzy broke up with her, she went back to Milton and decided to get past the age thing and just move on with that relationship. It's sad because I wanted to root for this couple. Their first date was so fun and nerdy. Like, nerdy people are not represented much on Love is Blind, and I always feel like I don't relate to anybody on these shows. I feel like they've never had like even an alternative-ish person, like someone with like a red streak in their hair. Like, would that be so crazy? They had a couple bald people this season, so I think we're making steps, but like I'm excited for like the first like adjacent like goth girl we get on the show. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing somebody, but like I always hope for like someone more alternative, and Milton is not quite that, but like he is nerdy and he talks about like he plays the Wii, which that's weird, but okay. He mentions he plays competitive Pokemon, which I feel like is the most alternative thing anyone has said on Love is Blind that they do. I enjoy that about him. I like Milton. I mean, he gives me like little brother vibes. I don't think he's ready for marriage, and by the end he kind of doesn't think he's ready for marriage either. And he kind of admits like he still has a lot of work to do and a lot of like fixing of relationships, like figuring out his life. And he's so close to the answer, like, you're there. Milton, get out of this experiment where you're forcing marriage at such a young age. But then Lydia comes in, and by the end, she's like, has this desperation to like just get engaged, and she's like kind of obsessed with Milton proposing. It doesn't seem like she's that obsessed with Milton as a person. She just wants the proposal. It's like a weird like possessive thing, or like just an ego thing, like I got the trophy, here he is. That's kind of the vibe it was. And she started very much like begging Milton, kind of like just like, I want you so bad, I want you so bad, like please, like let's just get engaged. And it just was like so cringe. It was wild because they started off so good and they just went so downhill. And by the time Milton proposed, it felt like he was being held at gunpoint to do it. And I feel like his jeans said it all. He was wearing jeans for the proposal. Like, okay, he got really pressured into it. And maybe he was just like, well, I get more screen time, so let's just go for it. But anyway, so the big argument they have before Milton proposes is related to Lydia having a previous relationship with someone else in the pods. This was a big twist. For the first time in Love is Blind history, 2 exes showed up in the pods, and it caused a lot of havoc towards the end of these first episodes. They decided to like not tell anyone until like both of their relationships were very developed. And because they waited so long, the people they were getting ready to get engaged to did not take it well and felt very betrayed by this, which kind of makes sense because what the hell? So Lydia had a previous relationship with Uche, who we haven't talked about him, but he's next. On Lydia's side, she doesn't tell Milton till after Uche has told his partner about it. Milton gets upset, he walks away, but he comes back. They joke about it a bit. I feel like Lydia learned that Milton likes jokes, and so she like uses them to her advantage. Lydia's such a mess, and I've already seen on the subreddit, she is hated by people, and I feel bad because it's like literally no one on Love is Blind deserves so much nastiness. I mean, whatever. I didn't hate her to that level yet. I mean, I want to see how the rest of the season plays out, but like I just think she's like the type of person that like in any situation just like goes to extreme feelings about it. Like with Izzy, she was really into him and she was all in. She's like, oh, I want you, and she was like obsessed. And then once he broke it off, she went back to Milton, and then once Milton starts pulling away, she's like, no, I want you so bad. And she's just like so dramatic about it. She's also like so intense, like she comforts all the girls in the girls' room whenever anything bad's happening to them. And at first I was like, oh my god, Lydia is so kind. She's like comforting everybody. She's like the group therapist and all this stuff. Particularly, she was comforting Aaliyah a lot. And Aaliyah was always crying about Uche, who Uche is Lydia's ex. But Lydia was like comforting Aaliyah and not telling her that she knows Uche. So it was like this weird revelation at the end that she is a liar. I don't know. She's like manipulative. And then also like once Aaliyah finds out, Lydia is like, you'll love him because he has his car and he has his house and his friends are cool and his dog is awesome, and all these details when Aaliyah had clearly been like, I don't want to know. So Lydia just ignores that. I just feel like she like tends to go to the extremes in any situation, and that makes me feel like when things start getting negative, she's gonna go to the other extreme of like anger. Also, there is a scene in the preview that sort of informed this theory, and where she's like yelling about something. We don't know the context yet though, so it's hard to tell, but like I think so far she's kind of being set up as this villainous character. And yeah, I feel like I want to move on to Uche and Aaliyah because they're very related to this. There are actually a couple that did not end up engaged by the end of these episodes because Aaliyah left the show out of nowhere, and that's where episode 4 ended. It wasn't like hinted at ever. We didn't see anything on camera happen. We might see it next week. Uche and Aaliyah had like one of the better relationships to root for, kind of. Uche is actually an enigma. Like, I am very confused by him because he's very, like, emotionally articulate, if that makes sense. Like, he, like, knows how to get to the bottom of, like, why people do the things they do and feelings, but also he can be kind of, like, condescending about it. I liked him and Aaliyah together, that, like, for some reason I rooted for them. I guess they had a lot of good moments, and they also worked through some hard stuff. I don't like the way Uche approached it. They hit an obstacle where they talked about cheating in relationships, and she admitted that she had cheated in her last relationship. She gave, like, reasons for it. She had communicated to the partner that she wasn't satisfied. She only cheated one time because she felt like she just had needs. I feel like her explanation felt very, like, remorseful. She was telling the whole truth. And yet Uche reacted really poorly to this and thought that was just a huge red flag, which, I mean, it's valid for him to feel like that is something to worry about. And he made some good points about, like, deconstructing why she never told her partner. She tried to say, like, I just didn't want to hurt him, but Uche was like, did you not want to hurt him, or did you not want to confront all the shame and guilt you had directly? And I'm like, well, he's right. But the way he delivered it felt very much like a lecture, and it felt very, like, holier than thou. So, like, even though he made a good point, or maybe he's right in a sense, he's also being kind of a dick about it. Also because he's cheated before. He was 18 at the time. Aaliyah had her reasonings too, and she explained them. Also, Uche talked about valuing honesty above all else. They really hate lying in relationships, and the thing they value most is honesty. Always with these shows, I'm like, okay, they're laying the groundwork now, and then maybe in episode 7 he's gonna tell a lie, and, like, it'll be a slow burn until then, like them setting up this honesty thing and then breaking it at the very end. But most of the time they, like, set it up, and then within the same episode, like, it gets all broken down. And that's what happened here. Like, they literally had this whole talk about honesty. He lectured her about the cheating, but then later apologized, kind of, for, like, that's why I'm like, Uche's so back and forth. He, like, apologized very sincerely about how he reacted about the cheating, and, like, appreciated her honesty, so he went back to, like, his value of valuing honesty. But then that was all invalidated by the end because Uche had lied about Lydia, like, hadn't disclosed the Lydia relationship, and it came out of nowhere, and obviously Aaliyah felt very betrayed. They had built this whole relationship on valuing honesty above all else, and Uche even lectured her about it. And then in the end, Uche was kind of a hypocrite by, like, withholding a very important piece of information and not being honest about it. So it was just kind of ironic and, like, hypocritical, and that's why I don't really trust Uche all that much, even though there are moments where, like, I want to trust him and I feel like he's smart and stuff, but I'm like, I don't know, something is inconsistent about what's happened. For Aaliyah, she's very, like, a roller coaster of emotion, like, reacting to Uche, because she gets really, really sad when he lectures her about the cheating, and, like, it seems like he doesn't want to pursue her anymore just because of that. She's also, like, not sure if he's right, because Uche seems really, really perfect for her, and she's also, like, suspicious, like, what's the catch here? And she's right to think that, because he does have these suspicious kind of moments. When she's, like, admitting weird things she does, he doesn't really admit anything that weird, and she's just like, I don't know, like, I feel like you're hiding something really strange or wild and, like, not admitting to it. It's kind of like when people in job interviews are like, my biggest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. It's like, what are your real red flags that you're not telling us? And I feel like Uche was not saying any. Also, I thought it was a red flag that Uche was like, oh, how many guy friends do you have? How many guy friends you have does not determine how much cheating you're gonna do. And that just felt like a telling question to be asking. I feel like it's always a red flag when someone doesn't let their partner have friends of whatever gender. And Aaliyah's another one who's like a nerd a little bit. She admitted to liking anime a little bit sometimes, and I'm just like, wow, that's the most edgy thing anyone said on Love is Blind. So I appreciate her nerdiness. She is very authentic, very charismatic. I liked her a lot, and I don't know what happened at the very end. So we get to the twist, which we already mentioned, is that Uche reveals that him and Lydia dated in the past, and it was semi-recent. And Aaliyah's devastated because Lydia is like her best friend in the pod, and she's almost more betrayed by Lydia than she is by Uche for keeping that secret. And it makes sense because the Lydia and Aaliyah relationship was so wild. That relationship almost had like the most romantic tension of like anyone this season, and maybe it's because the couples are kind of weak this season, but like when Aaliyah confronted Lydia about knowing, it was so intense, so emotional. And every time Lydia was comforting Aaliyah, she would like allude to like, I see so much of myself in you. She would be like, oh, Uche has a business, he has this and that, he's like this. And it's kind of like, wait, why do you know all that? But like no one would have suspected they were exes the whole time. It's so funny because there's one point where Lydia is comforting Aaliyah about Uche after the fight they had about cheating, and Lydia's like comforting her and saying all these things, and the music was trying to give us a clue. The music says like, got a secret, can you keep it? That's Pretty Little Liars. No, but the music is literally like, I got a secret, can you tell? Focusing on Lydia and Aaliyah. And that's like in episode 2 or something. And I was rewatching, like, the music was telling us that Lydia had a secret the whole time. So in the final confrontation, it gets really messy because Lydia's just kind of happy Aaliyah knows. Lydia tells her side of the story, discloses they slept together 3 months ago. That was the last time. Uche says he broke it off. Lydia says she broke it off. But Lydia also kind of lies here and is like, oh, he wanted to start from 0 when we got in the pods. We both considered it together. And when they roll the tape, she was trying to get him to start from 0 with her, and he was like, no, that'll ruin the experiment. So it's like, Lydia definitely twists the truth and is not fully loyal, but the way Aaliyah like talks about Lydia feels like she's gonna be in my wedding, she's gonna be like godmother to my kids, like shit like that, when they haven't known each other that long. And that's why I'm like, is there a romantic spark here or some tension? I don't know. When are we getting queer Love is Blind already? Please, we're grasping at straws here. And Aaliyah was just devastated by all this. I do agree the betrayal from Lydia is worse because her and Uche had been just focusing on their own relationship, but Lydia had this secret and was like comforting her, like projecting herself onto her. And then once it's all out in the open, Lydia decides to tell her everything about Uche, and like he drives a Tesla and his house is so cool and blah blah blah. And Aaliyah's pissed because she doesn't want to hear anything about that. I don't feel like Lydia's that good of a friend because she wasn't listening to Aaliyah at all about not wanting to know these things. And then Aaliyah goes to complain about Uche and what a hard time she's having, and he kind of like dismisses her about it. And so she feels very like alone and trapped. It's kind of confusing because when her and Lydia are together, they act like they're the best friends, but like she was kind of complaining a lot about Lydia in the final talk with Uche. I don't know, I feel like that one's gonna be messy. And it already is because, you know, Uche went in to propose and Aaliyah was nowhere to be found. The disembodied producer voice says she has left the experiment. There was no indication of this on camera that we saw. No thing to spur it aside from the drama with Lydia. I don't think they should be married with all this mess. Especially her running away. We see in the previews he like confronts her about it on the phone, and she does come back at some point and they have an in-person confrontation. So we'll see her again. I just do think it's kind of like sudden and not fair for her to leave like that, but also we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Also, Lydia seems like very much a wild card, so maybe Lydia said something very significant that like really turned Aaliyah off. or set her over the edge or something, or maybe she had a family emergency. I don't know. That's just wild that someone was that close to engagement and then just ran off with no explanation. And I'm very curious to see how this turns out. Like, that is quite the cliffhanger. I kind of am wondering, because we do see Uche in a lot of the promo or the previews. I wonder if he gets engaged to Miriam. Him and Miriam had a date that went well at the beginning, like episode 1 or something, and then we never saw them together again. And I'm wondering if like he tries some second chance thing with Miriam, because I feel like we do see him in the previews with somebody. She was a very mysterious lady, Miriam. She would like didn't want to say what her skincare business was. She was being very coy about the products. But that was all the couple so far. I mean, I don't have much hope. Like, I always say I don't have much hope, but like this season I really don't have hope. I mean, we only have 3 engaged couples as of now, and we're 4 episodes in. Like, we're almost halfway through the season, and that's like unprecedented and kind of a failure, like premise wise, for Love is Blind. I feel like it's the biggest failure so far. Not that it won't make great drama and good TV, but I don't know. There were many other standouts in the pods. The only one who I thought was funny was Renee, who I feel like she played like the court jester role for the girls' living quarters. We never saw her on many dates, but like she was always doing something kooky in the in the house and making all the girls laugh, like playing fake reveals or like doing the cha-cha slide. She seems really sweet and charming. But yeah, that's all I have for this video. I mean, it's a long one as usual, but I would love to know your thoughts on this season. No leaked spoilers, but we can talk about episodes 1 through 4. I would love to hear your thoughts. This is kind of a wild card season. It could go a lot of different ways. So I'm curious to know what y'all are thinking. Who do you like? Are you rooting for anyone? I feel like I'm not rooting for anybody. And I'm never not rooting for anybody on Love is Blind. On Ultimatum, I'm usually not rooting for anybody. But on Love is Blind, there's usually 1 or 2 that are like the hero couples, and I just don't think we have those this season. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget, October 13th, we're going to try doing a live stream talking about the finale and reunion. And I think it's going to be a messy one this season, so I'm excited about that. I also kind of launched memberships on my channel. It's kind of like a Patreon, but all contained within YouTube. Like, if you become a member of my channel, which is like a monetary thing, you can get like certain perks from me. I'm not quite sure what those perks would be, so if you have any ideas. I mean, I was thinking like input into what I cover on my channel, like once a month let members choose something to cover, maybe like exclusive videos, exclusive live streams. I don't think my channel is there yet, but the reason I launched them was because I wanted to make custom emojis for my live streams, and I thought you could do it so like they were free to access for anyone joining the live stream, but the only way to get custom emojis is to become a member. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I thought it'd be fun to just I added in a gold cup for Love is Blind as an emoji, and I thought it'd be fun for all of us on the live stream to be toasting gold cups in the chat, but like it costs money, so it's fine. I don't think I'm totally there yet, but just if anyone's interested, I work hard on these videos and don't get paid very much for them. In case you're in a position to support a content creator you like, that is just an option there. Also, in live streams, you would get a little Poochie icon next to your name, and it's very cute. I wish everyone could get it. It's very cute. The Poochie back here, friend of the channel. But yeah, regardless, your support and engagement in any form means a lot to me, so I really appreciate it. Please like this video or subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos or new live streams. Or you can just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!